Okay, here I am on the line with, from Vancouver, British Columbia. You know him from Sportsnet. His name is James Cybulski. We're here to talk about the great Blue Jay game last night. Set it up for you. Blue Jays Royals tomorrow. What a series it's going to be. James, starting it off, why am I, a bandwagon Blue Jay fan, in Toronto, in the public, at a bar, watching the game, having a blast, high-fiving Toronto fans, and you're in Vancouver? How does this happen, James?
Well, you go where the paychecks take you, right? So, you know what? Hey, man, I'll tell you what. You feel the love coast to coast right now. And I will say this. I lived in Toronto for a very long time and still, think awfully fondly of that city. And there's a big part of me right now that misses the energy that's going on there right now. Just the vibe and the energy. I talk to so many friends that are there and colleagues that are just, there's such a euphoria that hasn't been seen in that community for such a long time. And, and it's funny, I was remarking to somebody the other day or last night after the Jays game, that city has been looking for a release like this, and I'm talking about Toronto, for such a long time. And, for a couple of years ago, right before I had left, it was still a pretty angry city. The city was in absolute gridlock politically. You had Rob Ford, who was such a polarizing mayor that was there. The Leafs were terrible. The Raptors were terrible. The Jays were completely belly-flopped on that big Marlins trade. People were just angry, and they were pissed off. Toronto FC was an afterthought. And it was just one thing after another. And it felt like there was no hope in sight. And for the last 2.5 months, there's been an energy. The We the North momentum kind of caught fire quickly back in the spring of 2014, but it was short-lived, where the Jays have kind of built this crescendo here for the last 3 months, which has just been magical. And we're feeling it here on this side of the country. And I'll tell you why a lot of people are feeling it across the country. And, you're seeing these record-breaking numbers, or north of 4 million viewers the last few games. The reason why is because the Jays are providing hope. They provide hope for not just Toronto, but they're providing hope in Montreal, in Ottawa, in Winnipeg, in Calgary, in Edmonton, in Vancouver, in Saskatchewan. Let's not forget here that it's been 22 years since a Canadian team last won a Stanley Cup. So never mind even just the World Series drought. There has not been a Major League title won in Canada in almost a quarter of a century. People are hungry for a winner here, Daryl, and the Jays just might give it.
Awesome. James, I do want to ask you, though, about Blue Jay fans. It's something I noticed when I moved to Toronto. You meet a lot of them in the city, but more so than that, you meet a lot of them who people in the city, it seemed like I would meet just regular people in the bars, in the street, in downtown, who go to Blue Jay games, who like going to Blue Jay games. It's a fun thing to do in the summer, where Leafs, you don't meet that many people. Raptors, maybe some. But is that true? Or is the Blue Jay fan in this city a different fan than other sports? That's my question for you, somebody who knows this city.
Well, I would say this about the Blue Jay fan. I think there's a couple things at play here. I said this for years. For years I said this living in Toronto. I thought that the Blue Jays cap, the Blue Jays logo, was the unofficial flag of the city.
Okay.
And that people wore that to kind of, and it always kind of felt like that represented Toronto. And whether the Jays were good or not, people wore that Jays cap with pride. It kind of ripped Toronto. In fact, get this story. So before Derek Jeter's retirement year, the year prior in New York City, with New Era, the baseball cap or the ball cap making company, the number one selling ball cap in New York City, number one selling ball cap in New York City was the Toronto Blue Jays cap.
This is a few years.
How funny is that?
Yeah.
And so the Blue Jays hat, I think, always represented exactly what that sort of Toronto flag. And now you see a lot of the Six and We the North and everybody, now there's a lot of pride about the city of Toronto, where a lot of people didn't necessarily have pride about the city because there wasn't a lot to feel good about. Now everybody's repping the 416 area now and feeling good about Toronto, and rightfully so. It is a major metropolitan city, not just in North America, but internationally. And so now, I think not only that with Jays fans is, I think Jays fans, in terms of, Toronto sports fans for that matter, at least there are some that still remember the feeling of that team winning. If you're 30 years old, chances are, if you're 30 years old or older, you remember the Blue Jays winning. If you're a Raptors fan, you've never seen the Raptors win. You've only seen them win one playoff round in their entire 20-plus year existence. If you are a Leafs fan, if you are 50 or younger, you do not know of the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. Think about that. 50 years old. You're talking about people who are almost at the point generationally of becoming grandparents.
Yeah.
Or potentially that are, that don't remember the Leafs winning. And I think you're starting to see a lot of kids looking in another direction. Now, you're always going to inherit people that, parents, will we like to brainwash our kids sometimes to cheer for the team that you grew up cheering for. Kids will form their own opinions, but kids are drawn to winners. That's why the Seahawks are a popular team in the NFL these days. And that's why a lot of kids like the Chicago Blackhawks and, teams like that, or the Pittsburgh Penguins, or the Washington Capitals. Stars sell. LeBron James, whoever he plays for. And kids are drawn to winners. And because the Leafs haven't won in so long, I don't know if there's necessarily a badge of honor walking around, being a Leafs fan. And on the flip side of that, I think there are some individuals that still remember the Blue Jays winning. I know for me, I remember, growing up in Ottawa, I remember the Blue Jays winning. And it was a magical moment both years. It was a lot of fun. I was proud of that and watching it unfold. It was great. But, I don't think you can say the same thing about those other teams in that community. The Leafs it's been futility for almost a half century now. And for the Raptors, the same thing.
But James, is it also that, if you grew up in the city, you may not have been able to afford or get a hold of a Leafs ticket for the last 10 years, where the Blue Jays, you go down, spend $15.
Huge.
That's
and you know what? And that's a huge game changer. You're absolutely right, Daryl. And the fact that, the Leafs have priced out the average fan. You cannot afford to go. Like, unless you are in the 1%, how do you afford season tickets? How do you afford, if you want to take a family of 4 to a Leafs game, if you looked at the middle of the road ticket, you're looking at over $100 a ticket. I mean, what's the average? The Leafs average ticket price, I think, is about $125. So if you use that average price to take a family of 4 for 4 tickets, I mean, you're talking about, that's $500 before you ever consider thinking about parking, before you think about anything to eat, a hot dog, a drink, a souvenir, whatever it may be. That's a lot of money. You're talking about a $600 night for 3 hours of entertainment. That's not value. Whereas a Blue Jays fan, you can kind of get into the building for $25, $30. For $30, you can get into the game. And you're in the ballpark. Whether you want to go buy a beer or grab a hot dog, and all bets are off. But that's why I think you see a lot of women that go there.
Yeah.
You see a lot of female fans now around the game of baseball these days, and Jays fans, and a lot of young fans going out there as well because it's affordable. It's far from the best baseball atmosphere at Rogers Center, but it is what it is, and that's where the ballpark is. But you know what? When you got 50,000 fans, boy, it sure makes it a lot more fun, doesn't it? And that's why I think affordability, and the Raptors, they've also been more of an affordable ticket in recent years, although that's starting to change as the team starts, finally developing themselves into more of a successful franchise, like they've done the last couple of years. We'll see how that continues to trend. But, the Leafs have ruled on almost arrogance for years, being a successful, just having that corporate Canadian money that has supported all their suites and buying the rich people sections, you know what I mean? Having those platinum sections, and it's just a license to print money because, corporations can write off all those luxury suites. And from a Jays standpoint, there's 81 games over the course of the year, and, it's priced accordingly. And that's appealing to be able to know that, hey, for in and around $25, I can go to a baseball game and hang out for a few hours. And you know what? I think for most people, $25 is reasonable.
Yeah. James, I actually should say also, you mentioned TFC. I had free tickets to that last night. My friend and I went. I don't follow MLS soccer, and I saw like the last 25 minutes of the game, I think, and I'll tell you, I'll be honest, we had no idea why the crowd was going so crazy when Toronto scored to go up 2-0. But the crowd was going crazy.
Yeah, you know what? Boy, does that not feel like typical Toronto FC, though?
I don't know. I don't follow the team, James. I'm just letting you know as somebody.
And it's just so funny that, a team that has been waiting to break on through to the playoffs since 2007, and 8 years later, they finally get in, and, in their 9th season, and they clinch on a night that the Blue Jays play maybe one of the all-time wildest games in the history of Major League Baseball. Like, not just in Jays team history, but one of the craziest games in playoff history. All time! But you know what? It's a nice moment for them. And you know what? The one thing I think they've done is, they're still a ticket that is affordable. That has potential to be a real hot business model for MLSE, and I'll tell you this, that it has completely been botched in the first number of years, and if they can ever sustain a winner, what they did getting Jovinko, who's just been, what a star, I mean, he is worth the price of admission, but if they can ever sustain winning and create that atmosphere again like they had in the first couple of years with the passionate, wild, crazy fans, there's enough of a market in Toronto that you could sell that stadium out. You may not have the big TV numbers across the country like you do for hockey or for Major League Baseball like you see with the Blue Jays, but you know what? There is a niche market, and I think that you could really draw well with Toronto FC going forward. It's a nice stadium. It's a good atmosphere. And, I always remark how many times that the Air Canada Centre would be sold out on nights you didn't think that there was anything going on, and then you would find out that, there was a Bollywood superstar that came through doing a musical performance, and there were 20,000 people with the Indo-Canadian community that had packed the place, or maybe some Chinese singer that had come in, and it just speaks to the volume of diversity and just how big, the Toronto area and the Toronto market is. I mean, Southern Ontario, you want to stretch it out, I mean, get out to London and, you're talking about a pool of about 8 million people. That's a lot of people. So to be able to get 20,000 fans for an event, it's not that unrealistic to find, whether it's 20 or 30,000 soccer fans.
Yeah, James,
if you win.
James, thank you so much for doing this. I absolutely love you for taking the time to talk to me. Blue Jays.
Hey, Wiener.
What's up, buddy?
Can I just point out the fact that the Dome was as crazy yesterday. The last time I heard the Dome that crazy, I was at your house. Do you remember this?
WrestleMania?
WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan and The Rock, man. That building popped, man. You don't remember how crazy that was? I think you might have been stuck in the bathroom most of the night, but
oh yeah.
But man, like that, that's all I was thinking. I was like, man, I ain't heard the Dome this loud since The Rock beat the Hulkster.
Seaball, you coming? Are you gonna make it? Can you make it out here for the series, or you're in Van working for the whole time?
You know what? No, I'll be still here in Vancouver for the American League Championship Series. But if the Jays get to the World Series, there could be a Cybulski cameo, I think, potentially in Toronto in a couple of weeks. But first things first, the home team needs to take care of business against. They need to take care of business against the Royals, in which should be a fantastic series. The Royals, they seem to have found that mojo once again here, where they were kind of reeling down the stretch of this season, but they've kind of found their that magical groove that took them just a run or two away from winning the World Series last year. So this will be fun. I think both teams kind of got their swag back. So. Bring it on.
Awesome. And James, with tickets, you're working for Sportsnet now, so I'm hoping you have some ins for some tickets if you can make it out here.
Buddy, I am like probably the least relevant on-air employee at Sportsnet. I mean, there's way more important people like Cherry and McCowan and McLean and Scombo and about 8,000 other on-air types that they would think before me. I'm just hair and teeth, man. I'm just hair and teeth.
Well, from a bald guy, James, you're doing well. You're doing well.
Hey, at least I've got hair then, right? Hey, buddy, you got teeth. I mean, that's half the battle.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome stuff. James Cybulski. James, thanks for coming. So I guess this was a podcast we just did. I guess that's what just happened here.
I don't even know who you're working for now, man. I'm just talking. It might be just a phone call with me on speakerphone.
Well, I am sitting here with shorts, just shorts, no underwear, and but I am wearing shorts and a pink hooded sweatshirt in my living room. It's wonderful.
I feel dirty already.
James Cybulski, we'll end on that one. James, I love you for doing this. Are you still in the tunnel? You were driving in the tunnel when we talked. Are you still there?
No, traffic is good. I've made it to Marine Drive here now on the West Coast. I'm just coming up on Cambie Street here. So the ugly parts so far, I think I've passed the ugly parts. So I think it's almost gravy here from here on in.
Awesome. So James, before I let you go though, I am going on to a movie set October 26th, Neighbors 2. For some reason, I get to do this crap. What the hell do I say to these superstars on the movie set? What do I say?
Boy, that's a good question. What do I know, man? I've never been good enough for red carpets. Keep it real, I guess. I mean, have some fun. If you're doing red carpet stuff, look for stuff outside the box. You're a sports fan. Find out who's a sports fan, and I don't know, talk some sports.
No, this is a set visit.
Or see if Zac Efron can hook you up with like one of the 5 million women that he doesn't choose.
James Cybulski. James, we'll end it on that. You're amazing.
All right, Wiener, you be good, man.